Welcome to the Cali Sober Mom podcast. Monica and Britney are changing the conversation about motherhood, cannabis, and mental health, considering themselves unhinged Martha Stewart adjacent. Monica is a previous corporate America warrior turned mom and voice in the cannabis and consumer advocacy world. Britney is an artist, business owner, mother, and mental health advocate. Now, here are your hosts, the Cali Sober Moms.
Welcome back to Cali Sober Mom. We have Shelby, the founder of Betty Bloom, with us today. She is also the marketing director for Happy Days and is based out of New York, which I'm really excited to dive into because I cover the Deep South in Louisiana. Britney kind of keeps us up with what's going on in the Midwest. And so I'm excited as a mom, a woman, a former hospitality girl, just everything you're doing, but out of New York. Inform us.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello from New York.
Hello.
I'm waiting for Iowa. Hello. Welcome. Iowa. That's exotic.
That is exotic. Let me tell you.
Oh, yes. The Des Moines River that runs right through.
Florence, fauna. It's a wild ride here. Let me tell you.
Yeah. I thought we were crazy with the Empire State Building, but no.
Well,
Have you never been to the principal building?
Good tell you. Good time.
Stand back, woman. You probably don't know this about us. Only the deep listeners that are like regulars that have heard every episode probably remember Brittany and I were randomly assigned locker partners in high school. We never really knew each other because we came from this massive school and just our last names were similar. Our school is like 2,500 students and we lived different lives. Like she was very much show choir, theater, art. I was very much sports, do as little as possible to not go to school, but stay under the radar. So we just never overlapped. And then when this all kickstarted with me, somehow she popped up in my Facebook feed. I was like, that's cool. I reached out to her. I had her on the thing. And now we're business partners in Cali Sober Mom.
It's a wild ride.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love how the plant has like turned all of these like roads into very convergent roads. Like there's just so many, I'm crossing paths with so many people from life that it's like, oh, you just like smoking weed? That's cool. Me too.
Mm-hmm. It's wild. It's wild how different types of human can be supported by a plant that we very much are still learning so much about. And it's incredible. I can't wait to hear more about what you do. So tell us, what is happening in New York? I've never been, which is wild. I've been to 26 countries and I've never been to New York.
Oh my God.
Well, no one ever believes me. They're like, what? What?
Yeah. It's like, I am currently the marketing director at Happy Days Dispensary on Long Island. If you're not familiar with New York, Long Island is a little Long Island off on the side of Manhattan. And it's very multifaceted culturally. So like from town to town, probably like this in a lot of places, but I don't know, Long Island feels very exaggerated. Like town to town is a different vibe altogether. So it's been kind of fun to like bring the community together in all of their different multitudes.
Have you been in Disney World? Is it a little like Epcot, but in real life?
It's like Epcot, except like if you're from the North Shore, you like want nothing to do with people from the South Shore.
No, it's like exaggerated Epcot, but with weed.
In New Orleans, like I live in Old Metairie. I am half a mile from the line between parishes of Orleans. We don't have counties because we're in Louisiana and we like to have uniqueness. So we have parishes. But half a mile from like the Orleans parish line, and it's a world of difference. It's like you went into just like conservative land, but you cross over half a mile and it's just weird. So yeah, I totally get that. Like you live in your neighborhood and you have like your group and your people and you're this, but you go 5 minutes over and it's like, oh, but that's that world. And they do that over there and they focus on I don't know. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, it's like that in New York right now. Like really, it's a big state and there's so many like different versions of what New York is. And then you have like the brands that are just like exhausted people driving all over the place trying to relate to everyone. So it's a pretty cool scene right here. I think Poppin', I feel like it's gotten a bad reputation. Like there were some hiccups. There still are some hiccups as far as like, you know, rollout and regulatory issues. But I mean, culturally, which is really what I kind of care about, it's a scene. It's really cool. It's very exciting.
I have a question on that because not being from New York and just, following what I follow on LinkedIn or what you hear in the news, you would think that New York City has like unregulated corner shops everywhere and that they're ruining things for all the people doing things correctly and that products being sold in those places.
Yeah, it's okay.
Accurate.
Yeah, we can use like Camino and like the Kiva brands as an example.
Okay.
Like you can buy California Kiva gummies anywhere, like at any bodega. It's just available. Like a lot of California brands are available. I feel like there's two different versions of the market existing. Well, more than two really, right? Because there's like the illicit market, which is very strong. It always has been. New York was moving, metric ton of weed every year. So like there was a real market beforehand. And then there's the kind of new guard, which is where I feel like I kind of come into play, which is people that are looking to do things really differently from a business perspective and maybe grow in a more cooperative way and focus on maybe a rising tide and a better tomorrow and sustainability. And then there's that like middle piece, which is I'm not going to say men because I'm not going to be like a hater like that, but I will say like more patriarchal, traditional business practices where people are just looking to get rich on their own. So there's kind of like the three versions of the industry going on right now. I like to kind of dabble in all of them because it's important to know, first of all, you have to just be able to play the game, right?
100%.
Martin have to. If you cannot relate to every side, including those you loathe, you're going to fuck it up. You are. And that is a very real situation for everybody right now that's in marketing. I don't care if it is in a retail space like I am, in the cannabis space like you are, in a human sense like Monica is while she's relating on Capitol Hill to different types of people. But if you can't communicate and see the side from which the other people are coming, you are going to fail because our country right now is way too divided for that.
I reject the concept of black and whiteness of everything, right? There's like this binary tendency for everything. It's like, well, if you feel this way, you can't feel that way at all. And it's like, that's not how we are as human people. No, that's not how we are. So, I obviously like I find myself in that middle category, like drawn to the business thing because frankly, like I'm a mom and I have a 14-year-old daughter and she's going to college and I need to pay for it. Right. So I can't just be like, no, let's co-op everything. And like, I don't need to make money. This is just not true. So kind of need to play in that space. And then the illicit market is really where culture lives and has always lived. So, I like to draw my inspiration from there. I love the relationships there. There are a lot of people that are crossing over from there. So, I feel lucky to kind of, because I came from running legacy events, I like that I can kind of like be a part of all of it. But I am like gung-ho on that rising tide side where there are some really amazing people, specifically amazing women, I'm going to say, that are like just doing the things. And so there are a few dozen women in New York State that are kind of just like making things happen. And
I love when there's a few dozen women anywhere doing some shit. I love when women work together. Women, period. I love women.
I want to talk to you about that because I put a piece out there yesterday that I knew was going to ruffle a few feathers because there was a major court advertisement that happened over this past weekend. And to me, here's how I break it down. Right now, women are leading the growth in the cannabis sector, not just by what we're doing to grow it as humans that have decided to get involved in it, but people who are buying the product, putting the money to make something grow is women. And Green State reported 70 to 80% of discretional income or spending in the United States is by women. And so when the biggest activation for the hemp drink space, which we all know hemp beverages are popping off, was gloating about sponsoring Jake Paul and Mike Tyson's after party, where on social media, they advertise to women, they use women influencers, they do all of that. But then 4 men who own the company go and sponsor and gloat about sponsoring two dudes that are full of sexual assault accusations, some conviction, what they're teaching children, what they're showing children. Why do we keep doing that? Like, why do we keep buying from men that want to do nothing to help us? So I don't know the answer, but I just want to put that out there to get some opinions.
It couldn't be truer that we know these facts and then we still submit to them because that's just the way it is. And I think that we are like programmed as a society to just like continue with things the way they've always been and also make excuses for poor behavior because that's how business happens. And, you know, you don't want to ruffle feathers. I run into the same issue. We carry the Tyson brand at the dispensary and I keep the display pushed back in the corner of the showcase and they asked to move it up. And I said, no, like, this is what I can do. I'm not the purchasing manager. I don't make the decision to not carry the products. And also, like, there's an audience for that. I just kind of feel like there are so many lanes out there. We're not going to eliminate masochistic behavior.
Mm-hmm. You can reduce it
in the world. We can reduce it.
Reduction.
Right? Like, I just don't opt in. Like, I don't watch fights. I don't watch movies about war. Like, I just don't do the things that don't align with me. And I'm pretty vocal about it. Like, I'm very vocal about it. My husband keeps saying, like, where are you going to leave me for a woman? And I'm like, I'm not going to leave you out here for a woman. I'm just trying to be pro-woman here. Like, I don't know.
It's funny you say that because whenever I say anything that's because I am in a position where I can basically say whatever I want because I'm not financially dependent on any of these dudes buying my product. Or if I say something, they can blacklist me and never hire me. And so the amount of messages I get from women when I say these things that are like, oh my gosh, thank you. Every time I even allude to it, I get attacked or I've been blacklisted from jobs. But then I'll say these things and people will call me and be like, your husband? Like, what does he think? I'm like, why the fuck does it matter?
Can we
what
talk about, though, nobody
Wait.
ever asked me that. And I live in Iowa. It's because you live in the South that it is so much more perpetuated. And my sister-in-law, who does all of our copy, she's like my marketing lead for the most part for my company. The amount of things, her emotional turmoil and struggle that she has, especially over the last few weeks, struggled with has been wild to watch. That has hurt and been harder for me to watch than any of my own experiences in this, because I know just by nature of the people that she doesn't have a choice, she has to surround herself with other than her very closest circle. She's having to navigate this in real life. She can't completely cut off all of these, people that do not have alignment with her. But at the same time, she's trying to uphold those ideals and hold that strong for her own daughters and, I'm like, I don't know how you're doing this because that is hard. At least I know in my spaces, it is rare that I encounter anybody that I don't immediately put myself in front of that I don't already know where they stand on most things that I agree with. And it doesn't mean everything's exactly the same, but for the most part, we're aligning pretty similarly. But imagine living in a place where, like Monica lives, she's in New Orleans, and there are various viewpoints on how things are done, how things are meant to be. And that is the overarching pervasive feeling that I get out of the South. Not that they give a shit, but there's a way things are done. And that is hard to combat.
Yeah.
It's
You have
hard.
that in New York, or do you just get to do your own damn, just do whatever?
Well, I do my own thing. And I thought that I was like normal. Like, I thought I was like, oh, everybody's like me. Like, just a hippie that just wants to love. And like,
Right.
it turns out I was way off. And like, I found out my closest friends didn't feel the same as me. I'm a Girl Scout leader. I heard a couple of my Girl Scouts saying really negative things about Kamala. And I was like, what is going on right here? Like, where did we come to a place in the world where we have to so aggressively knock someone down that we can't celebrate the fact that like a woman is running for president? And not only that, like kind of awesome woman, right? Like a non-controversial, lovely person. And like that my Girl Scouts that I've been empowering these girls since they're in kindergarten and they're in high school now, that somehow along the line, they like lost this, like we empower each other and we build each other up. Like, where did that theme get lost? And I do think that like a lot of it relies on people in our age group, right? We were raised to say that like women are equal and we just like retorted that. But I was saying to my daughter the other day, like, we were raised to see that, but then at the same time, a man was putting their hand on our leg.
Yeah.
Right. You were like, well, that's just the way it is. So, it's like we said all these things. We say progress is happening, but it's not really happening. And I think that this time right now is like just an extraordinary time because it's clear now, right? It's real. It's really happening. There are really people that are threatened by women finding their power and owning their voice. And I say, like, challenge accepted. Like, now we know, right?
Yeah.
Now to like stay in our lane. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm staying in my lane. If I find people that don't align with me, I will continue to the trend. There will be transactional relationships for me.
Yeah.
At that point, it's how are we working together in a business sense? And then on the community side, which is the thing that really moves the needle and matters, especially in marketing right now, then I find my people and I align with them. And that's the people that I'm actually doing the work with. So,
and that's really fair. I think it's a fair outlook. And it handles things delicately and also in a way that allows you to still maneuver the best way you can for business and personal and professional growth while still respecting what you do believe and what you're trying to perpetuate. And I think that that's an area all of us are going to have to work on in growing. And
we also have to fact that we're not going to be working with everyone.
Nope.
Like, I broke off a relationship with someone that I was doing some work with, and it was a great opportunity. And it was in my town. It was, locally moving the needle on cannabis, which is all I really want to do is just normalize. We were so not aligned, and I was so not welcomed into his energetic field because I work with a man. So I was like, this is not the energy that is going to serve me or you, frankly. So you keep doing your thing and we'll just do our work without you and we'll figure it out together.
I love that. And before I dive in to ask you about the community, because I think both of you are dead on. Brittany's doing a lot of things with community too. So I really want to hear what you're doing because I want to bring both of you this out. But I think you guys will find this little humor. When I was pregnant with my first daughter and we found out the sex, and I did not want girls. I was petrified to have girls, did not think I would be a good girl mom, whatever. But so when we told the first person, they could see the look on my face. He's older, he's about mid-70s. And he looked at me and he said, "It's okay, Monica. Women can do almost anything now." That was the response. I'm like, well, that wasn't why I'm sad, because I'm petrified to be a girl mom. But what do you mean almost? I'm going to burn the world to the ground now. But so speaking of community and women, and tell me what you're doing, because I see some things and I see what Brittany's doing. And I'm like, man, there's something like that needs to be down here. So tell me about the community you're building with Betty Blue and in New York, and especially how you're tying that into marketing. Because I think a lot of people need to really clue into that.
Yeah, I mean, the marketing in the cannabis space, it leaves much to be desired. And just by being a good marketer and entering the space, you can really set yourself apart by just like knowing what you're doing. Just the bar is super low, which is great for the ego.
The bar is on the ground.
It's not great. And if people are like, it's amazing what you're doing. And I'm like,
you're in the bare minimum. It's going so good.
We're like, in most industries, this is advanced, but I understand this is a brand new industry. So cool. Look at me.
It is.
It's not Cannabis's fault. It's new. Like there's no standards. There's no operating practices. There's nothing. It just doesn't exist.
Sure, but like also it's not the first industry ever.
It's weird that it's this bad. Like,
right? People are like, oh, weed. How do we do it? And I'm like, I don't know. There's been weed industry before. So I founded Betty Bloom after starting a pretty large music festival. I started a 420 festival at a brewery that I was working at. It scaled pretty big. It was built as a co-op event. So I kind of worked with community partners and gave them different spaces in the floor plan. And so everybody executed together. And this was its fourth year. Shaggy was the headliner this year. So I found this intersection of beer and cannabis and how beautiful the community was. And it occurred to me that cannabis is not an industry. It touches everything, right? It's just style choice. So I started realizing that there were a lot of potential partners in kind of the mainstream world that could be engaging with cannabis users. So I started Betty Bloom to provide educational opportunities for predominantly women to learn about cannabis, but applied to the brands that are available legally in the market. So instead of just learning about gummies, you're learning about Eaton Botanicals, which is a gummy company in upstate New York that has adaptogenic mushrooms and is very Cajun specific. Instead of,
I want those now. Sorry, I want those now.
They do a gal pal gummy, and it works. It's great. It's my favorite gummy. It like makes me not want to ever have menopause because I want to keep using it.
Okay, we will touch on that and link in the notes after.
Yeah, definitely. So I work with a lot of different brands, and I have parties. I do things that are small, like a book club size party where you just get your girlfriends, where you get your girlfriend come over. And then it scales to like a loyalty engagement event for the dispensary. And it scales up to a consumption area at a music festival, which we did this summer. The idea is that we just work directly with brands. We introduce people to what's available in the market, and we let them ask questions and also have fun, because we forget to have fun.
Y'all.
And when we were starting this episode, before we hit record, I looked at Britney and Shelby. I was like, y'all, I just want to have fun. We wing it. Let's just have fun. So the fact that you're bringing that to communities of women and something that they might not know much about yet, or someone, I still know very little. I've been in this for months, and I've been trying to learn, and the amount of misinformation and what people want to throw at you and why their brand's best. And I'm just like, you're discombobulated. So doing that in a safe space for women is huge.
Yeah, it happens at the dispensary all the time. People will come in and be like, this is my first time in. I just want to sleep. And we're like, you have an endocannabinoid system, and like, you can try CBN. And they're like, I just want a sleep gummy. Like, we're sleep gummies. So like, learning to simplify, I think that like all of us together, I do think there's opportunity for us to be working together to create that cohesive messaging. It's lacking, you mentioned the hemp beverage market. There's no like communication between the hemp side and the cannabis side and the state regulated stuff and the stuff you can get shipped to your house. And all of that really boils down to a very confused consumer. It's a barrier to entry, right? So like, we can't really grow the space until we kind of land on how we're going to message everything together.
I really think this is what Monica has been aiming to do with Cali Sober Mom, more so than anything. And she does it better than anybody else I've ever seen. That's why I chose to go into business with her, because she is so relatable to people who currently don't have access to that. And I say that from a standpoint of, I know people like that look like Monica, but think like me. And I think that is very complicated for them, because what we talked about earlier, this man's world patriarchy bullshit, it's harder to access the type of information that makes you an informed consumer. And I think that that's what makes it very hard, and why Monica is fucking incredible in this space, because she looks like the rich ass mom down the street who happens to also know things about cannabis. And I think that's what makes it, but you laugh. That is the reality of marketing. It's wild, because people won't listen to me because I look like I eat granola and I probably have a paint studio in my basement. Well, I do. This is true. But also there's a barrier to entry in all marketing scenarios. And you happen to meet one of the very interesting ones. People like Shelby and I are the loudmouths that are supposed to look like they're dating women and doing things. But look at all the things behind Shelby. Look at all the things. Yeah, I have a vintage, cruel 12 Days of Christmas moment. Monica has the inside of a fucking Pier 1.
It's like popcorn.
Because I don't know myself yet. And that's what I'm trying to get other women, is because I got told my whole life small. I was so full of so much ideas and energy. And it was constantly like, no, we don't talk about that. No, we don't talk about that. So I learned very quickly, and this is something I'm going through in therapy, is how to walk into any situation, assess it, and mingle throughout it and be very successful. And I didn't even know that I was doing that. And so when it comes time to like have a background, Brittany's knows, she's been with me for the last 6 months. I cried, and this took me 6 months to do this.
Even just to think about doing it was stressing.
I feel like I have to match an image because I don't have an image of myself yet. And there's so many women out there that are trying to find themselves, and they don't know that they can be themselves.
Right.
They don't know that that's what it is.
Yeah. Like you know who you are. You just have this notion that people are going to accept you for who you are, that they're judging you for who you are. I think the magical thing about this plant is that it does kind of like expose your true self, and it encourages just organic, natural connection with people.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I tell my daughter all the time, you can want to be friends with a group of people, but the friends that are going to mean the most to you are the people that are just natural connections. And I think that like the magic happens when you stop caring what people think of you in the first place and just focus on like what can be natural connection. And that's what the plant, it really does do that, right? Like I'm at a point right now where I socialize. If I'm like not engaged in a conversation, I just like leave. And sometimes, right? I was at an event,
Shelby.
like, I want to go home. I just want to go home. And I left, and I was like, oh, you get to choose your own adventure in this life. There's no obligation. No one's staring at your every move. Like if they are, then like that's a dumb problem.
It's weird.
Yes. Stop. That's what I tell people all the time.
That's me.
Yes.
Great. Like why you have my poster on your wall?
Quit.
Oh my God. I could seriously talk to you all day. You are an inspiration for someone that is.
An hour already.
I know. For
What?
someone just like coming into this space and coming, even though like, yes, I had a successful life before. It's not like I'm trying to downplay that like I didn't have this life before, but it's like coming into my own and acknowledging things and wanting to set a new standard for my daughters and other women in my neighborhood. And I just want to tell you thank you for being someone that has already started and leading the path in that and everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I think that you're like downplaying the impact that you have.
Yeah.
Like, I think that you've found the space, I've found at least, that this is not a judgmental scene. This is kind of like oh, you smoke weed? That's cool. Like, I also feel uncomfortable in social situations and weed make me feel better. Like, oh, I also have a super stressful life and I'm looking for an out, or like,
Yeah.
you know, you found a place that I think just lets you come as you are. And, you know, you should keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to worry.
Thank you. And to the listener out there, do what's in your heart, as scary as it is. Like this just didn't happen overnight. It was a little piece here and a little piece there. And I think you will be surprised as you let the little pieces of yourself out, how many more people are going to gravitate towards you and be like, oh my gosh, thank you. I feel that way too. So
Yeah. There's solace in knowing that you're not alone. I cried on my Instagram the other day because somebody called me a see you next Tuesday and I got that.
So I challenge you next time.
They boosted the algorithm. They boosted the algorithm.
I'm making merch out of it. I don't even care anymore. Yeah. I don't care anymore. That's like no more fucks are given. Or let's turn on your exit.
You can come. You're good. More about it.
Well, I think we'll leave it on no more fucks are given. And we will link Betty Bloom. We'll link Happy Days. I'm going to get the link for you for that gal thing. We'll put all of that in there. But if you have any questions for myself, for Shelby, for Britney, just send us a message. We are all open books. And we look forward to having you for our next episode.
Amazing. Have a nice day.
Thanks for listening to the Cali Sober Mom podcast. The best way for us to get the word out is you. So share this episode with someone you know who will enjoy it. And be sure to follow Cali Sober Mom on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're consuming the show right now.